Hello, everyone. My name is Seth, and today I'm going to be giving you a Star Wars tier list of all of the movies and the TV shows. Happy early May the 4th to everyone. If you're just coming across this video and you do not know me, I am a huge Star Wars fan. I have been for a very long time, since I was like maybe 6 years old, something around there. And Star Wars has influenced me in such a huge way. It got me into movies. It basically put me on the career path that I am on now. And it's just such an influential movie to me. I have a lightsaber tattoo. I got tons of Star Wars shirts. I got pop figures and Black Series figures. Just that's definitely not all of them. If you saw my last room I had a ton of them. I haven't had a chance to bring them over and pack them yet. And so since it's almost May the 4th, I thought it would be great to go ahead and go through all of the shows, all of the movies, and do a tier list. But before I jump into the tier list, go ahead and like this video, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. We're getting closer and closer to 200 subscribers. So if you want to be in that first 200, and of course you do, why wouldn't you want to be? Go ahead and subscribe. And see, we are on the tier list maker. We're going to start off with the movies here. The first one we have is A Phantom Menace. This one was a little bit before my time. It was Attack of the Clones that got me interested in Star Wars. Like, one of my memories of getting into Star Wars was seeing the trailers for Attack of the Clones and asking my friend, who was a little bit older than me, like, hey, what's that? That looks really cool. And he was like, oh, you've never heard of Star Wars? And I was like, no. And so that afternoon we watched the original trilogy, and instantly I was hooked. I know a lot of people my age view the prequels a little bit more kindly than some of the older Star Wars fans. I'm a little bit more in the older fans camp when it comes to the prequels. And so I think there's a lot of good here in The Phantom Menace. The lightsaber duels are fantastic. The introduction of Darth Maul as a character. I love Liam Neeson in this. Like, there's a lot of good here. But as a whole, I think it's going to go in the C tier. It's okay. But see, here's the great thing about Star Wars. Even though not all Star Wars is absolutely fantastic, even the Star Wars that's not great, it's still Star Wars. It's still like a part of the family. And speaking of being not great, but still being a part of the family, we're going to go on and put Attack of the Clones down there, Bantha Poodoo. It's not good. Attack of the Clones is the worst Star Wars movie. I know a lot of other people will have a lot of different other opinions, but for me, if I want to watch any Star Wars movie and I get to pick, Attack of the Clones will be the last one that I pick. Like I said, there still is some good things here, but I feel like the story is very disjointed and the writing is quite bad. I feel like the prequels as a whole would have benefited if there were more people to honestly give feedback to George Lucas. And honestly, I think it probably would have turned out better if he was just kind of a producer on it and he didn't direct it, because famously he is not a actor's director. And I think this is the movie where it shows probably the most. Next is Revenge of the Sith. This is my favorite of the prequels. I'm going to go ahead and put it in good. I'm not going to put it in great. There are some great things about it. You can absolutely tell that this was the story that George Lucas was the most interested in telling. And I really enjoy it. This is the one of the prequels that I will go back to the most. But I think it's still held back as a whole film by some of the things that just plagued the previous two films. Next, we're getting into the original trilogy, and I don't think it should be any question as to where these go. A New Hope, S. Empire Strikes Back, S. Return of the Jedi, S. That is one of the best trilogies of all time. And each of these movies individually are just so good, but then the way they all kind of tied together is good, even though they were making it up as they went along. There's nothing that hasn't already been said that I could say about these three films. A New Hope is what started it all. The world building right from the beginning is absolutely incredible. And they take it up to the next level in The Empire Strikes Back, which a lot of people consider to be the best sequel of all time. And I might not fight you on that. It raises the stakes. It does everything that a sequel should do. There's a reason why when you hear of movies having sequels, like, oh, this will be like the Empire Strikes Back of the Marvel movies, or this will be the Empire Strikes Back of this, that, and the other. There's a reason for that. And I go back and forth. If you were to ask me what my favorite Star Wars movie is, depending on the day, I'll give you a different answer. But most days, I'll probably say Return of the Jedi. The way that they're able to have the character development, not only just in that film alone, but kind of tie up the character development from all of these different characters for the whole trilogy, the way they're able to wrap everything up together, the way that they had three different planes of action in the final battle, it was just top-notch filmmaking. It's top-notch Star Wars. So typically, I go back and forth between this or Empire Strikes Back. You can't go wrong with either of them, but for me, I think my favorite is Return of the Jedi. Now we're getting into the sequel trilogy, and I like the sequel trilogy probably more than most people, and I have a feeling that the sequel trilogy will end up being like the prequels. I think there will be a generation that really embraces them like there is the generation that embraces the prequels. Let's jump into talking about The Rise of Skywalker first. I was in high school when it came out, and the hype was real. Like, I was so incredibly excited. I could not wait for it to come out. I remember that was back before most theaters had the assigned seating, and so I had to get to the theater super early so I could make sure I got the best seat possible. I got the first showing I could, and I got in line like, an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours before the showing started. But I just wanted to make sure I was there as soon as possible, and this did not disappoint. There's a reason why coming out of this, I thought, is this as good as some of the ones in the original trilogy? I know I'm not the only one who's had that question. So here, I think I'm going to put it at A. It's great. It's some of the best Star Wars. Everything that it set up was so good. I absolutely loved how the story unfolded, and I don't care that it's basically like a remake of A New Hope. I think that's perfectly fine, and that's a great way to jump into a new trilogy like 40 years later. Everything with Han Solo in this is so good. I love the new characters that they set up, and I really thought this was an incredible start to a new trilogy. Next is The Last Jedi, and this is one that has become divisive. It was divisive when it first came out. I liked it. I didn't like it as much as I wanted to, and it definitely didn't do what I kind of wanted from the film, but I did not let that affect my enjoyment. I know some people went into it expecting one thing, they didn't get it, and they hated the movie because of it. It didn't do what I wanted. It didn't do what I would have done, but I think what it did was still interesting. So for this, I think I'm still going to put it in the great tier. I would have it below The Force Awakens. I don't know if I could necessarily drop it down to the B tier. It's kind of in between the two, I would think, but I'm going to keep it there for now. And as far as The Rise of Skywalker goes, I feel like I like it more than most people. I don't hate the idea of bringing Palpatine back. I think that is perfectly fine. My biggest issue with it is it kind of feels rushed, and it kind of feels like 100% reactionary to The Last Jedi, and it kind of ignores a lot of the things that it was setting up. It kind of ignores a lot of the themes, and I think this goes to show maybe the biggest issue with this trilogy is that they said at the beginning that they had a plan, but you could tell they really didn't. And I mean, if they did, it was not very much of a plan, and they probably changed it a lot. So I don't necessarily think you need a full etched in stone plan to make a good trilogy, because obviously the originals were not like that. But with something like this, with something this big, I think it would have been smarter to have a full plan. And this movie shows that they didn't really have that. I haven't seen The Rise of Skywalker in a few years, honestly. It's been like maybe 3-4 years since I've seen it. So I don't know if it would necessarily hold up as well going back and watching it now. I'll have to do that. But for now, I don't dislike it as much as everybody else seems to. And of course, maybe part of it has to do with I saw this at Disney World on the premiere on my honeymoon. So there's a lot of good things going for it. There was a lot of really good feelings there when I went to watch it. So maybe that's coloring my experience of it a little bit. I'm going to put it in okay. I will probably revisit this in a little bit and give it a little bit of time, letting more Star Wars things come out. There's more movies coming out, theoretically. Eventually, there's more shows to come out. So right now, I'm going to keep it at a C, but we'll check back in later. Here, going on to some of the TV, we have Star Wars Visions. And Visions is interesting. I'm not a fan of anime. I don't like the style. That's just me. It doesn't connect with me. I've never really been a fan of anime. The only anime I ever watched was Pokemon when I was like really little growing up, but I couldn't get into any other anime no matter how hard I tried. And Star Wars Visions is a lot of anime. I do appreciate season 2 for doing different kinds of animation. They really kind of step outside the box a little bit. And I would be interested in a season 3. I think as a whole, I would say it's good. I would definitely recommend it. If you love anime, this is absolutely a must watch for you. But for somebody that's more like me, I would say it's good. There's some good stories here, and I think it's worth your time. Next, we have Resistance, and I don't really remember a lot about this. I watched it. I know I did. I just don't remember like a single thing about it. It's very forgettable. I think I'm just going to have to put it in the D, not that great, because I don't think anything's like spectacular about it because I can't remember anything. So I'm going to leave it there at D. Next, we have Andor. If you have not seen Andor, please go see Andor. Season 2 is coming out later this year, I think. If it's not this year, it's next year. But I'm so excited. I heard somebody describe Andor as if HBO made a Star Wars show, and they are 100% correct. This is very much more of an adult kind of Star Wars. It's very serious, very grounded, and everything in this show is so good. We got One Way Out. Like, there's just so many iconic things from this, and I wasn't sure how to feel about the show going into it. I really wasn't, but after watching it, I love Andor. I recommend that to anybody who's maybe fallen out of Star Wars over the last few years. I recommend this. This is some of the best stuff that they have done since the original trilogy, and that's going up in the S tier. Now, next we have the Clone Wars movie, and the Clone Wars movie is basically like the first few episodes of the show, and I'm gonna have to put it in not good. It's as a movie, it's just not good. I remember going to theaters and seeing it and leaving thinking, That's a little underwhelming, but I'm still excited for the show. And that's basically what you'll get if you watch this. It's just kind of underwhelming. They don't necessarily have a strong grip on some of the new characters they're introducing. And so it's just overall not good. But that does not reflect the Clone Wars series as a whole. Next, we have The Mandalorian. And this was a time when The Mandalorian first came out that Star Wars fans from all sides of the fandom were in unison, absolutely loved The Mandalorian. Now, some people had their issues with season 2. A lot more people had their issues with season 3. You can go back on my channel. I did a review of just about every episode, I think, on season 3. So you can go back and see my full thoughts on that. I really love The Mandalorian. I really do. Season 3 is my least favorite, but I still think it's a good season overall. And so The Mandalorian goes in the great tier for me. Next is Obi-Wan, and I really, really wanted this to be in the S tier. I really, really wanted this to be in the great tier. I just don't think I can do that. I think I'm going to have to put it in the good tier. It's good. A lot of it is good. It does have its fair share of bad in this too, and that's really disappointing. And this is another example of how these shorter seasons, like the 6-episode seasons, I don't think works. This absolutely should have been a movie. It should have been a 2.5 hour, 2 hour, 45-minute movie instead of a show. But if you're going to do a show, give us like 13 episodes. Really like sink into the story. Give it kind of a grander scale. There's a ton of good stuff in this. Anytime Anakin and Obi-Wan face off against each other is incredible. I love Ewan McGregor in this role. I love what he does in this. But I feel like a lot of the issues with this come because it was kind of stuck. It was not really sure if it wanted to be a movie or a show. And I think that shows. There is somebody who did a cut of this. They got the footage, cut it down into a movie, and that's much, much better. But as of right now, it's going to stay in the B tier. Next, we have the Book of Boba Fett, and this might be the most disappointed in a Star Wars project I've ever been. I tried to convince myself that I really liked it, and it really did take me long to realize, no, I'm just convincing myself. How low do I put this? I'm hovering between not good and Bantha Poodoo. I'm gonna put it in not good, but it's very close to going here. It's very close. It's just there's some really, really good moments in it, but those are few and far between. This isn't what a Boba Fett show should have been. That's just a matter of fact. I do not think that this is what a Boba Fett show should have been. I would love for them to take another shot at it, but I think at this point that's not going to happen. We're just going to see Boba Fett pop up in something else. Next, we have The Bad Batch. I can't 100% rate this fairly. I've only seen the first season, and I thought it was okay. I'm going to put it in okay. I've heard it gets better. I know the last episode is coming out this week, I believe. I will catch up with it eventually when I have more time, but as of right now, it's just in the okay tier. Next, we have the Clone Wars TV series. I remember this so well. I had so many good memories. It used to come on Cartoon Network on Fridays, and I would always spend the night with my grandma on Friday nights. We would order pizza, and I would watch this. It was just a good time, and the stories continued to evolve and to mature as the show went on. And there's some really, really good just Star Wars stuff in here. They really started to understand the character of Ahsoka. And so this is going to go up in the great tier for me. Next is Solo. And I really like Solo. I don't know if that's an unpopular opinion. I don't hear people talking about Solo that much. but I really like Solo. I'm going to put it up here in good. It's not great, but it's good. It's fun time. I feel like the first 20 to 25 minutes maybe is a little disjointed. While I was watching it, I was thinking, if this is how the whole movie is going to be, then this isn't going to be good. But right about that 20, 25-minute mark, it turns, and I really, really enjoy the rest of it. What Ron Howard had to do coming in and basically remaking the whole film, that task was incredibly difficult, and he did a spectacular job with what he was given. And so I'm going to put Solo in the good tier. We have Tales of the Jedi, another animated thing here, and I liked Tales of the Jedi. It gave some interesting context to some situations, to some characters. I don't think it's necessary viewing. I don't think it's that good. There's some good stuff here. I feel comfortable dropping it in okay. Almost last year. I will say almost because as I was doing this, I realized that Rogue One is not on this list. So I will talk about Rogue One and where I would put it after this. But right here we have Ahsoka. And I don't really know how people view Ahsoka either. That's kind of the same thing as Solo, where it's like, I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. After the show has finished its run, the last couple weeks after the show, people were still talking about it. But I don't hear a lot of people talking about it now. But I really enjoyed Ahsoka. I wish it was longer. I wish they had more time. There were a few times where it felt rushed, but I liked what they did with the story. I think the work they did translating all these characters to live action was really, really good. I liked a lot of the lightsaber stuff, the Jedi stuff. I think Sabine learning the Force is not out of character. It's not like universe breaking, because I think this kind of shows like, hey, anybody with enough practice and effort, like they can learn. And I really like that. I think that was kind of one of the messages set up by The Last Jedi. I'm gonna have to go back and watch this again, but as of right now, I think I'm going to go ahead and put it up on the great tier, because I don't know if I like it quite as good as The Mandalorian, but I'd like it better than Obi-Wan. And I think the great tier is the right spot for it. I'm super excited to see what they do with a potential season 2 or whenever we see these characters next. And last on this list, for whatever reason, they don't have it on here. I guess I just must have missed it. That's fine. There's a lot of Star Wars stuff. Is Rogue One. And Rogue One, I've kind of gone back and forth on Rogue One over the last few years. Not that whether I think it's good or not, it's how good I think it is. Because my movie rankings have always been original trilogy, and then The Force Awakens, and then Rogue One. But I've kind of gone back and forth over the years, just like, do I push Rogue One up above The Force Awakens? I don't know. So I think at this point, I might have to put Rogue One up there in the S tier. It is so good. There's so many people that will say that this is some of the best stuff that they've done since the original trilogy, and I'll absolutely agree with them on that. I think everything that's happening in Andor will only serve to flesh out the Rogue One story even more. So as of right now, I will put Rogue One in the S tier. But that's it. That's my tier list. Let me know what you thought in the comments section down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. Which ones would you put where? Are there any that I had up in like the S tier or the A tier that you might would have lower? Is there one that I had in like the D tier that you would think, oh no, hey, that needs to go up here in the A tier? Let me know. I'd love to have a conversation with you about it. Once again, happy early May the 4th. I hope your day is full of fun and Star Wars. Don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. You can follow me on social media pretty much anywhere at CinemaSeth, and I'll see you next time.